All right. So, yeah, starting this thing off, Bridget, first of all, thank you for coming on here today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, would you be able to give us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and anything else that you want to get into? And yeah, we can work from that.
Absolutely. So, I am presently a spiritual teacher. I lead an online community of about 80,000 people across 80 countries, teaching spirituality, spiritual growth, and energy healing. But I'm previously a Silicon Valley executive who was very, very career focused and not focused on spirituality. And it was largely a series of very dramatic events in my own life that caused me to reassess and question, had I really been prepared for life? And I realized that the model, the standard path that we are given, especially in the West, doesn't really provide the deep wisdom on spiritual growth, purpose and meaning and faith that the vast majority of us, those that are waking up, really need. Um, so I'm actually the daughter of a spiritual teacher. My dad traveled all over the world teaching and healing thousands of people on nearly every continent. And so when I found myself having these very big, difficult questions about life, I turned to my dad. And that kicked off several years of one on one training with my dad on the art of spiritual growth and healing. And that's what's led me to where I am today, sharing the knowledge with all of these people, wonderful, wonderful people around the world that truly saved my own life.
Mm, amazing. So, what was it exactly that got you on the path? Maybe what did you not see in the path of the American dream, per se, that led you down the spiritual path?
That's a good question. I felt I had had early signs of spiritual awakening even as a child, and it was confusing and seemed strange. And I had, I guess, symptoms of spiritual awakening and spiritual gifts coming online. But when I looked out at the world, there really wasn't guidance and there wasn't any explanation for the experiences I was having. And so I assumed that meant something was wrong with me. And I spent decades trying to hide who I really was. And I found that a lot of our society teaches us to do just that. It really encourages us to hide our authentic selves. And there are so many intricate and very interesting aspects of that, how it affects relationships, work, our health, our family, everything. But if we look at it from a very high level, it's I didn't understand who and what I was, and I didn't know that it could be accepted. I think that is one of the big issues that we see in life today, that we are encouraged to live more of a cookie cutter life of what we see on, say, social media or on TV and movies. But that's not true. That's not, humans are so varied and different, and we all have such unique life paths. It's so interesting to say that you and I are getting to have this conversation right now, but you and I probably have had completely different experiences in life. And I'm sure that if you and I went through and had a chronological discussion of everything we've ever had happen in life, it would be astounding. You probably have been exposed to things that I have no awareness of, and you could probably teach me so much. And the inverse is also true. And I think that all comes down to accepting and honoring that we're supposed to be different and we're supposed to be weird. And
Hmm.
that was, I think, the biggest thing for me was coming to understand that this picture or supposed American dream path doesn't really honor that.
Mm, yeah, it honors in authenticity, right? It's strange because we're all okay with not knowing who we are. That's the popular paradigm. That's the Western way of living. We're okay with our own ignorance. It's almost cool to be ignorant, which is quite strange. It's quite peculiar to me, right?
Very well
So
said.
the path, the spiritual path, if you want to call it that, I feel as though as you very well described, is just coming into authenticity, coming to know yourself, know thyself. That's the question of all questions, right? To know yourself. Who am I? That is, I feel, in a nutshell, what this whole thing is about, and that is the way to find a little bit of peace and happiness. I think you can have it all, man. You can have millions, you can have the car, you can have the house, you can have the women or the men, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't know who you are, you know? Like you can have all of that, and I think that's what we're trying to find in materialism. We're trying to find ourselves in these ephemeral things, in these ephemeral matters. But really, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean like if you don't know who you are, what's the point? You know? So I think you probably came to understand that. I imagine you were living the dream, you know, as you said you're an executive, but something didn't feel right. Was there something in you that was like this ain't it? And then essentially that led you down the path of finding out what is it per se.
Yes, absolutely. There's even a moment, actually. And I consider myself fortunate for this. It was uncomfortable at the time, but I consider myself very fortunate for this moment. And I was traveling with some clients and other executives, and we were on this gorgeous private jet, and we were flying to a beautiful location for a very important meeting. And from the outside looking in, you may think, that's it. You hit it. That's what you
Made it.
want. Flying private jets
Mm-hmm.
and clothes and these things. And it was so interesting because I was sitting in this chair on this plane and I was talking to some of the other executives. And someone made an offhand joke and they said, well, we all hate our lives anyway. And it just stopped me in my tracks. And I
Mm,
stopped and I looked around the plane and I realized every single person on that plane had at least once confided in me that they were miserable.
that's wild.
And many of them were having very painful experiences in life. They hated their job. They were very unhappy at home. They questioned everything in life. They were just, they felt often, they said, like zombies, walking through life, going through the motions,
Mm,
but they had a nice paycheck or these nice experiences that were taught largely through, movies and music that
mm-hmm.
we should strive for. And that was a really big turning point for me of realizing that just because something is put on a pedestal as it will help you, it will change you, it will make your life, doesn't mean it's true. And I myself was also absolutely miserable sitting on that plane. I was stressed out. I was working 90 hours a week. I wasn't sleeping. I was starting to have very serious health problems. I had no social life. I just worked. And no aspect of my life felt balanced or happy. And it was just this moment of realizing this is not what I was built for. This is not what life is about. We are not put on this earth just to make money, to buy things, to impress other people.
Mm-hmm.
And you're impressing other people who are also questioning life and trying to find out how they live.
Yeah.
And so that was really profound of realizing that I've been sold a complete lie and I bought it. I
Mm,
bought into it. But that doesn't mean it's the end of the line. It just means that now we're waking up and I can start making changes. And
mm-hmm.
it was just a few short months after that I left the job. Everyone in my life, except for my parents, told me I was an idiot. I left this very prestigious job with great opportunities. And I didn't have a fallback. I didn't know what I was going to do. But I walked away from it. And I can tell you, the environment you're in and the people you surround yourself with will quite literally determine the trajectory of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are surrounded by other people who are miserable and who are not asking profound questions and asking more of themselves, it will affect every aspect of your life, whether or not we want to admit that. But when we can take the initiative to make those scary leaps, those jumps to say, I don't I need to distance myself from people from my past or, the old childhood friends or whatever. And I really need to pursue these deeper aspects. I need to know who I am. What is my soul? What is it telling me to do? And that at that juncture is often where people find me.
Mm.
They are either right at the point where they want to make that leap, or they have just made it. It's confusing, it's scary. And above all else, and you've probably found this too in some regard, when we start really sincerely looking at spirituality, the spiritual path, and who we are, it's often very lonely because
Mhm.
there aren't that many people out of the 8 billion of us on this planet. There's a relatively small number who are starting to wake up and ask those questions. But I will add in, we're so fortunate because we're living in this remarkable moment in human history where more people right now are waking up than we've ever seen before in all of human history. And that we get to be here and be part of that and wake up alongside all of these others. It's incredible. It's just
Mhm.
incredible. Like this podcast, for example, and you're getting to connect with other similar responding ones, responding souls to the call.
Yeah.
It's miraculous.
Truly, and that's what I was gonna say. It's a miracle. The fact that we can do this is truly miraculous. And yes, you are the company you keep. I feel as though that is a huge proponent, or that is a huge part of the path is surrounding yourself with the right people, the right energy altogether, but definitely the right people. You are the company you keep. Speaking personally, I had to cut off a lot of people, to be honest with you. And it was with love. It was with love. You just got to be honest with yourself. And yeah, it just happens along the way. As you go along the spiritual path, you got to realize who isn't with it, and find the others, as Timothy Leary says, find the others. So, yes, thankfully, we have this technology to be able to find the others. And yeah, it seems like a very slow process, definitely relative to the population of the world. A lot of people aren't on this wavelength. But I mean, I feel as though there is something in the zeitgeist. There's something going on, like an awakening, right? We've all heard that buzzword, a collective awakening. I do believe that's happening. It's slow and steady, but I think eventually we'll reach a critical mass, where it'll just topple over and this will become cool. Kind of is in a way, you know? In some kind of way it is, but it doesn't matter. It's quality over quantity anyway. Find the right people, and you only need, I don't know, maybe one or two. You don't need anybody, actually. That's the thing. You really don't need anybody. It definitely helps to have community, but at the end of the day, this is a solo journey, you know? So if the community or the teacher or guide brings you back to you, that's all that matters, I feel. And that's why I do these conversations ultimately is to have you bring me back to me and hopefully the listener. And I think that's the highest service that community or spiritual friends can serve you is you. They can serve you. Um, yeah, powerful stuff though. You got enlightenment on a plane, on a private jet. It's pretty
Yeah,
funny.
it's a bit unusual, but it's those moments where we're most unhappy that are often the greatest gifts. And my dad taught me a quote that I absolutely love. I live by now, and I try to share it with as many people as I can.
Hmm.
And it's God wraps the best gifts in the ugliest paper.
Wow.
The most difficult experiences are going to be the most transformative
Yeah,
and the most beneficial to you if you're willing to look for the lesson.
exactly. Yep.
And that is where I think we find so many people today. And just like you said, we have this huge awakening happening, and more people are starting to ask these questions, and they're starting to really look at the beauty of life and wanting to heal. And I can't tell you how many people from all walks of life, all over the world, from the middle of jungles to up high on a mountain, just talking to me on a cell phone.
Mm.
These people from all over the world are saying, I don't know why, but I just feel like I'm done. I'm sick of suffering. I'm sick of
Hmm.
complaining. I'm sick of being unhappy. And I just know, somehow I know that there's something better and there's something more in life. And that is just, it's incredible.
Mm.
It's really those moments where we start making that turn away from being upset with life or thinking that life, the universe, spirit, God is punishing us or is just not, is ignoring us or forgetting about our needs. We turn away from that and we start realizing that those really difficult experiences, the painful ones, the uncomfortable ones where maybe we felt rejected or abused or something by the world, those are the greatest gifts because it takes that to shake us awake, to crack open the ego and the thinking mind and get us to start saying, you know what? I need to find more. And so I love that. I want more and more people to really start examining those. The more difficult the experience, the better it is for you.
Hmm. Yeah, truly. Yeah, that's powerful stuff. That's the transmutation or alchemization process right there. And what it's all about is a huge 180 in perspective. It's going from this is hell to this is heaven, pretty much. It's maybe in a yogic sense, going from my body as a prison to my body as a temple. Many different ways to look at it, but it's starts with perspective. It starts with just switching the lens on how you see all of the so-called bad stuff of your life, all of the suffering, and working with it rather than against it. It's the difference between momentum or entropy, I feel. Yeah, that's the work of the sage. That's the work of the shaman. That's the spiritual path in a realistic sense, in a pragmatic sense, because the stuff of our life, the suffering doesn't go away. We're always gonna go through stuff that isn't of our own accord. So it's like, how do you handle the stuff of your life? And that makes all the difference. It's that simple.
And I love that you brought up shaman
Mm,
and this spiritual awakening because it's really interesting, especially you and I are both based in the United States. And
mm,
but by no means is this mass awakening limited to the United States. It's
mhm,
global. But what's really interesting is in some of these Western countries that have younger cultures, we don't have a deep awareness and reverence for the art of a shaman, the
mm,
art of a spiritual guide or sage. And I think that's really what we're seeing change is that we are now waking up and realizing that that is the missing piece in society.
yeah.
Not only do we need, you need to be able to pay your bills, so you need guidance on finances and work and purpose, but we need guidance on our spiritual self, our true self. And I think that's really what we're seeing, especially in the younger nations, is a newfound birthing or awakening of a reverence and a respect for spiritual guidance.
Hmm.
And I think we're going to start seeing more and more spiritual teachers and awakening ones stepping forward, teaching whatever unique message comes through them in more of these Western countries, which is just incredible. It's really honoring more of the indigenous trainings because we look at, say, Native American culture and some of the Aboriginal tribes and African tribes, and this has been taught for thousands of years. But in our quest for physical success, we abandoned it. We didn't respect it. And it seems like that's coming back full circle. And we're now realizing that we need to be balanced, right?
Yeah.
Spiritual and physical.
Yeah. That's an aspect of our being I feel as though we've neglected for a very long time, and the indigenous people haven't. They've never lost their way. But yeah, the Western world has neglected that part. Maybe they tried to fill the void with dogmatic Christianity or Islam and things like that, but it doesn't really hit the same as the indigenous ways or the Eastern ways, right? So I think that is a very pivotal part of our being that we just have shut off for millennia, for many, many years. And we are seeing this resurgence, this archaic revival, as Terence McKenna would say. And yeah, it's quite glorious to see. It's like we're bringing the old ways in with the new. We're talking about the way of the sage and the shaman using Zoom, right? And spreading the word in that way. It's very interesting, using TikTok and things of that nature, right? So it's quite interesting, but I don't think it could be any other way. The only way that it could spread is through the use of free information of the internet. The the Dharma has a way of spreading itself through the means of free information. It is a strange time because all of this stuff we're talking about now, like the Dharma, spiritual path, esoteric wisdom, was kept very tight, right? It was only for secret societies, and you had to be initiated. You had to get just like the okay to have the wisdom. But now we have it in our pockets anywhere you go. You got the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, you got the Buddha's wisdom. You got it all. Really, you have it all at our fingertips, hidden in plain sight. It's a strange time, but I guess point of my story is there's no excuses anymore. We are, um, we have so much ability to wake up and truly be happy. And as we started this conversation, find out what we really are. It's all here for us. You don't have to get initiated. You can do it from your living room. You can get enlightened in your living room.
You can.
You can find the guidance, your community in your living room. That's what we're doing right now, kind of.
Mhm.
It's so it's so strange because it seems like too easy. It's easy to get caught up and mix up with the other kinds of content that we have on the internet and just gloss over it in some way. But it's not. It's different, right? The philosophy of the self is a lot different than TikTok dance videos or cat videos. Isn't that peculiar too? Is like using the same exact technology, you can also lose yourself. You can get distracted. I'm pretty sure we're all guilty of that, getting lost in the endless distractions. So you can either use this technology to make you or break you. Really, it's all up to you. That's the path of the shaman. I think it's like you take your life into your own hands. And what better lifetime to do it than this one? This is the lifetime. That's what I like to say. This is the one. This is the lifetime of all lifetimes. So, use it effectively. That's all I have to say. So let me ask you this one. What like practices, what kind of guidance did you get from your father? What is your background in the spiritual path? Would you be able to get into that a little bit?
Sure. That's a big question.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
it was like 6 years straight of 7 day a week training. We never took a day off. And our training was anywhere from 6 to 10 hours a day, every day.
Wow.
So there's a lot, but from a high level, it's coming to understand the energy in the body and the energy of the soul.
Mm.
So the two go hand in hand, but we're not often taught that and how the two interact together. The energy in the body, we can look at our body is really like this miraculous rocket ship that we're being given. And our soul, the real us, is housed within this temporarily in this body. But the body has these amazing spiritual gifts to teach us and to help us with our spiritual awakening if you know how to use your body correctly. And so some of these have been taught for thousands of years. We see the practice of, say, Qigong and Tai Chi. Those have been taught for about 4,000 years, give or take. And that was a big part of my training was how do we learn how to, one, move energy through the body? Because you can have, if we don't learn that, our energy often just sinks and it stays at a very low level day to day. And it often just dwells right around our stomach because we use it for digesting food.
Yeah.
And so it's a very almost primitive way of living. But if you really are sincere and you're interested in spiritual growth, you need to learn how to move that energy up through the chakras, through the energy system, ideally to your third eye. And that is your spiritual guidance. And that's how you can find your spiritual path and see where you should be going, what you should be doing. That's how you communicate with the divine. And
Hmm.
so some of the training was on that and how we move energy through the body more effectively using a lot of these ancient practices. But another big part of it was in learning how our experiences in life energetically affect our bodies, which then affects and actually prevents our own growth. And I'll give you an example. Let's say that you have a traumatic experience earlier in your life. Maybe you're 18 years old and you have a traumatic, very difficult experience, which is unfortunately very common. We often are faced with situations that we don't know how to handle. And it's so shocking that we freeze up for a second. And then, most common, we shove those feelings right down and say, I can't deal with that. I need to just get through and survive, which makes sense. What we're not taught is the next step is you have to learn how to go back into the body and find where that was shoved down,
Hmm.
because all of our emotions, our reactions, even our beliefs are actually stored in very real physical parts of our body. And this has been a really fascinating school of study for thousands of years as well. And there's actually a map in our body, there's a whole constellation, and specific emotions and energies magnetized to specific areas. For example, if we feel a lot of anger or rage, that goes straight to the liver. And there are specific joints and specific organs for nearly every emotion and energy. But we're not often taught, especially here in the West, how do you go in and assess what the current state of energetic health is of your whole body? And then more importantly, what do you do about it if you find that there's a problem or a blockage?
Hmm.
And that was a big part of my training was, and that's something that I teach a lot online. I have a YouTube channel and social media channels. It's teaching people how to really reconnect with their body. And this, for many people, is the first time they've ever tried to have any kind of relationship with their body in a more spiritual or energetic sense. And how do we go in and find what could be causing or contributing to even physical health issues? And I learned that in my own life. I started having a lot of health problems and I didn't understand what was causing them. I thought I ate healthy, I exercised, I did the things that you're supposed to do.
Hmm.
And yet I was having chronic pain, excruciating chronic pain, anxiety attacks, all sorts of really painful, difficult issues. And it took working with my dad and learning how do you, using your third eye, using a number of ancient tools, go into the body and start clearing out these blockages and these old repressed emotions. And that was a very, very important part of the training that I sincerely hope more people learn about because there's so many people who are suffering today who can get better, who can heal. And I'm proof of it. I have no symptoms, no health problems at all. Every single thing 100% gone from learning this spiritual path. And I think as this awareness starts spreading more, we'll likely even start seeing more of the medical profession taking on more of this knowledge. I mean, even some of the largest hospitals in America today, some of the most prestigious, are now teaching things like Qigong meditation and Reiki to cancer patients. And they're realizing that even in peer reviewed studies, this is actually making a huge difference in a positive way for these patients in ways that we never expected. And I think
Hmm.
that's so important for people to realize how much our energetic and emotional world is connected to our physical health.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, that's part of the 180 perspective shift, is seeing it as energy, seeing everything as energy, including, of course, yourself, your body. Yeah. And taking the ailments of your body as messages. That's how I see it, at least. It's like if I have something going on, I'm like, oh, this is a message. This isn't just torture. I'm not being tormented here. This is another message that I can alchemize and transmutate here. Yeah. And being able to work at it through qigong or yoga asana in that way is extremely beneficial. And the proof is in the pudding. You just have to do it, right? It may seem like magic and, fairy tales and something that just doesn't, the rational mind doesn't compute. But if you do it, come to find that there is a lot to these Eastern ways, Eastern medicine, for sure. You just have to do it, man. It's like I like to say the path or the yogic path is it's like a science experiment. It's the science of the self. It's the holy science, as Sri Yukteswar says. It's a trial and error process. And if you do try these things, they usually work. Maybe not everything. That's the thing is you keep what does work and you get rid of what doesn't, essentially, in a very simple manner. So yeah, you're very blessed to have your father though, to be able to show you what does work in an effective manner. So yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. It's definitely a blessing for you. Good karma to have somebody so close to you. And I think you said you actually rejected it at first, though, right? You thought it was lunacy.
I did. I rejected it early on, and it makes sense now. I rejected it. I had a lot of adults in my life when I was a child tell me that spirituality was wrong and bad. I had school teachers telling me it was evil, and so many. I just had this overwhelming wave of pressure from adults in my life telling me that I had to reject it or else I would destroy my life. And I realize now that that was actually a great spiritual test. And we all face these, that the more that's on offer to you spiritually in life, the more you will be tested. And it's just, there's always a balance in life. The more light that comes into your life, also the more darkness. It's always in balance. And
Mm.
so I did reject it earlier in life. I listened to the adults when I was a child. I listened to them and I just said, I won't go into that. I'm just going to stay career focused, school focused. I'm going to be the, good little straight A student in school. And although it's, you don't want to ever go back. I don't believe in saying it should have been this way or it should have been that. I think life unfolds how it's meant to. And
Mhm.
I'm supremely grateful for those experiences and even having gone through rejecting spirituality for a while, because having the absence of it in my life and suffering from that taught me just how critically important it is.
Yeah.
And I think it can be even more beneficial to my students now and the people that follow me around the world, because we can speak the same language. I've felt a lot of the pain that they are now feeling. And so it it just feels like a great gift to have been able to go through that. And I got to experience both sides,
Mm.
I know for sure, having lived both paths, that a spiritually balanced and faithful life truly does improve every aspect of your life. It truly
Mhm.
does.
Amen to that. Faithful, for sure. I think all roads lead to faith,
Mhm.
real faith, not blind faith in some kind of outward idol. Faith in the inward idol, you could say. Faith in yourself. Yeah. That's what we all lack and yearn for. Yeah.
Yeah, just recognizing that each of us, our soul is a reflection of the divine. And you can think of it as every person on earth is a pore on the body of the divine. We're all a
Mhm.
pore on the skin of God.
Mm.
And we're not separate, we're a part of it, and we're all connected. And the more that we can learn that and integrate that into our lives, the more we can start treating each other as connected and as worthy of being connected with each other, the better life goes.
Mhm.
And the more just dignity and the more love and honesty we start seeing in ourselves and in those that we magnetize to us, because you truly get whatever you put out into the world. And those are just some beautiful, beautiful truths of life that doesn't matter what religion you're a part of or if you're even part of one. It doesn't matter what your ideology is, your beliefs, just learning that we are all truly connected. And the more love and truth that we put out into the world, the more you will get. And
Hmm.
I just, my dad used to teach me that all of the greatest truths about life are simple. Doesn't mean they're easy. They're never easy, but they're simple because the universe has life arranged in such a way that anyone from an illiterate farmer in the middle of nowhere to an Ivy League professor or the head of state for a nation, and everyone in between has access to this, and everyone can learn. There is not any kind of restriction on who can grow, who can follow the spiritual path. It's open to everyone. And it's made and designed to be simple and straightforward and understandable by everyone, no matter your background or your education or what you've been exposed to. And I think we're seeing that more and more people are starting to benefit from that openness and that connectedness and realizing that it doesn't need to be a complex, mysterious, ephemeral thing that I'm on the spiritual path and no one can understand what I'm going through. No, it can be simple, it can be beautiful, it can be sacred, but it also can be open to everyone. And I think
Hmm.
that's so important to remember.
I mean, it really is quite simple that we're all one. It's like that's the simplest of simple.
It is. And that we can treat ourselves with respect and kindness, and we treat others with respect and kindness. And
Yeah.
the more love and truth you live out, whether it's in your thoughts and how you feel about yourself and those around you, to how you actually behave and speak to others and to yourself. It all comes down to love and truth.
Hmm.
Two must go hand in hand.
Hmm. Yeah. Because we're all the one. That
Mhm.
love and truth comes from that perspective shift of we're all in this together. We all are each other
Mhm.
together. We are all pores on the skin of God, as you said. Hmm. Yeah. That's like, how can I not love? Right?
Mhm.
How can I not? It's it's like it's apparent. I have to. I have to see that you are my brother and my sister. And even deeper than that, you are me, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. It's that's part of the perspective shift, as I said. It's part of that 180. And that changes everything. It really does. Hmm. So many things come along from that simple truth of it's all one. So many implications in terms of the shamanic path and transmutation, alchemization. And it's like you do want to make it sort of grandiose, as you said, sort of mystical, because it can be, but really just keep it simple and just work from that perspective, the realization of oneness. And yeah, the magic will come. It'll come and go. But it doesn't even matter. All that matters is you stay seated in the one-sided vision of all in throughout all of your interactions. Just that's me looking at me. When I look into somebody's eyes, that's me. And what am I gonna do about it? And that's the thing too, is you don't even have to think about it. Like from this this vantage point, this throne of oneness, you could say, there is no thought. There is no like um there's no egotistical games that you play. It's all intuitive. I think you spoke on that before. Once you connect with the third eye, it leads the way. It guides you through all endeavors of life. What to do, what to say. There is no second thought about it. You just kind of you roll with it. That's part of the miracle. Everything is smoother from the sense of oneness. And that is recognizing what we really are in some sense. We can try to describe it, but when you really try to think about it too much, then it gets like a little overwhelming, right? You don't even want to think about it too much, but that is the fact of the matter is that we are all one. One with each other, one with the earth, one with the planets, one with the cosmos. And from that vantage point, it all makes sense. It all changes. And that is the grand transmutation and grand alchemization that is available for all of us, for sure. All of us. No one. is absent from this. We all have the opportunity and the capacity to understand this for sure. That is part of the miracle, actually, is all 8 billion of us are able, maybe not realistically, will we? I don't know. Who knows? Maybe in the future, but we are able at least to have this realization that we're all part of God. And hallelujah.
Incredible.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. And that I think the biggest stumbling block that people hit with that realization, and I see this time and time again with people all over the world, I ran into it in my own life, is feeling that we're not worthy of forgiveness for our past mistakes. And when we don't feel worthy of being forgiven or forgiving ourselves, then we block ourselves from love. And when you block love, you stop yourself just right there. You don't progress even a step further.
Hmm.
And that's the big one, is coming to realize how important it is to recognize that all of the spiritual path for every person on earth, from someone who is just taking their first yoga class to a self-realized guru living in a cave in the Himalaya, and everyone in between, all the spiritual path is coming to recognize that we are crawling out of lower behavior, and everyone does it,
Yep.
and we're climbing higher into cleaner, purer, more loving, truthful behavior. But by that very definition, it means that all of us behaved poorly in the past. Everyone did. There's no exemption. If we didn't make mistakes in the past, if we didn't harm ourselves or harm others in the past, then we would already be self realized saints and gurus. And the fact that we're not just means that we're still in the process of learning.
Mm.
And I think when we can take that pressure off ourselves to be perfect, we can take that off and realize there's no person on earth who doesn't have painful experiences in their past, and there's no one on earth that hasn't caused harm to other people.
Mm.
It's not about dwelling in the past and on our mistakes. It's about forgiving ourselves so that we stop blocking ourselves from love and truth.
Mm.
Doesn't matter what
Powerful.
you've done. You are worthy of being forgiven. Every person on earth is. It just takes the courage to ask for it. That's it.
Surrender. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's very important. Yeah. Forgive your past and also forgive your potential future because we're not perfect, so we may slip up, and that's okay. But
Mhm.
yeah, forgiveness is a huge part of this whole thing. It's funny because we talk in the way that we're all part of God, we're one with the cosmos, yada yada, as I said. It's a simultaneousness that you also have to recognize the truly the majesty of being one with it all, but also the futility of the human condition, right? The sort of humility that you also have to admit that you're just this animal as well. We have this animal nature. So it's this weird dichotomy, being a part of God, but also being an ape at the same time. And it doesn't mean, so that's the thing too, is it's like you recognize both, but you shoot for the stars. It's like recognize that you do have this animal nature. We all have this animal sort of primal nature. That's where we come from. But it doesn't mean you can't do better. I think that's the spiritual path in a nutshell is you recognize it, admit it, forgive, move on, and hopefully you can refine and become pure or sattvic in that way. And that's not even for like any kind of accolade. That's not like for bragging rights that I'm so pure, so holy. It's actually just because that leads to less suffering. Like purity of lifestyle, purity of living is how we find happiness. If you want to say happiness, for lack of a better word, it's you have to purify and refine your lifestyle, really simplify your lifestyle as well, so that you can find joy, a little bit of bliss in this experience. If you keep embracing the animal and the primal, you're going to get sucked down to the lower energy centers, and the lower energy centers are going to create entropy for to keep it simple. They're going to create a lot of entropy in your life. So, yeah, it's a good explanation. It's a good explanation. Um, it's very peculiar. So we are recognizing who am I, who we are, our true identity, our true self. It's sort of a joke. It's the simultaneousness. It's the simultaneous paradox, as I said. We are God, but don't get caught up in that because you're also the monkey. So can you weigh both of those? Find the balance between that, the yin and the yang, the light and the dark, the holy and the dirty, you could say. Can you find the balance between those and then refine yourself in the humanly character? That's how
Well
I see
said.
the path. Thank you.
Agree.
Yeah. Um,
To be human. I think we can honor that too. That the great yogi Paramahansa Yogananda said that on average, the typical human being, it takes 1 million years of reincarnations to ever even begin to ask, what is God?
mm,
That can be incredibly humbling to think that as so many spiritual teachers from different belief systems and ideologies all over the world have said something very similar, that we've lived as rocks, as horses, as trees. We've lived all these, and we've also lived tens of thousands of years as humans in every capacity, on every continent, in every kind of lifestyle. We've been everything. We've been every nationality, you name it. And it took that to get us to where we are today, just to begin waking up. And it's tough to be a human. It's tough. Exactly what you said. It's that balancing of the sacred and the monkey part of us, the animalistic part of us. And so people are often hard on themselves. They think they should be further along, or they get frustrated when they slip and make a mistake on the path. I say, give yourself some credit. It's tough.
hmm
It's
hmm
tough what we're doing. And it's in some ways, a very easy environment that we're in. It's probably the easiest now than it's ever been to start waking up because there's so much information, like what you were mentioning earlier. You can quite literally become enlightened in your living room. But at the same time, it's also very difficult. We have a
Yeah.
lot of pressure on us. There's a lot of information and supposed guidance on life that doesn't lead you anywhere good. It actually is all a lure from darkness to try to get you off your path. So, there's we have to honor that too. I think that it's simple, but there are a lot of challenges. And the more that we can find community and the more that we can find others who are sincerely on the path, the better it is. We start, really strengthening each other. We can, when one person slips, we can help pick them up and dust them off and say, it's okay, keep trying.
hmm
And I think it's so important. And it's a really wonderful use of the internet today to
Yeah.
be able to use this tool to really form those communities and help encourage each other. And it's okay, keep trying. No matter what, keep trying. That's the most important thing.
Mm. hmm Truly. It's the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. It's the three jewels of Buddhism. And yeah, it's all available for us with the internet. And thankfully, people like you are out there on the internet, spreading the good word, being vulnerable in some kind of way, and establishing community in that vulnerability, in that openness and authenticity that you share with the world. So, yeah, I thank you for doing what you do, and I thank you for coming on here too and sharing your time with me because I think this was an awesome reminder for me. As I said in the beginning, I think I said in the beginning, this is all a reminder. This all serves as a remembrance for me to come back to me. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate you doing that for me and anybody listening in the future as well. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say, to be honest with you. Community and honor this incarnation. I think that was also a good point to wrap this up at. Honor this very special human incarnation. In Buddhism, they say that being born a human is very special, right? To just be incarnated as a human being. But I think being incarnated in this time period is extremely special. This is the incarnation of all incarnations. Maybe I'm biased, Could be my ego talking, but I don't think so. If you can analyze the past, there's nothing else that I can compare to from our history books, at least. I can't compare this lifetime to any other lifetime. So take it in and realize maybe there's a sense of urgency in this lifetime for you to um for you to take advantage of, all of the tools at our disposal, all of the information and guidance, like you, Bridget. So take advantage of this. That's what I would recommend. I mean, that's the beauty of it is you don't have to. It's the beauty is we have the freedom to distract ourselves if we want to, or if you really want to take advantage of this lifetime, you can. So the choice is yours. But on that note, thank you, Bridget, for providing us with the opportunity to choose wisely.
Thank
I
you,
wish
and
you all
thank
the
you
best.
for hosting this. It's wonderful that you're connecting different people and beliefs and experiences all together. I really appreciate that.
Well, it's only possible because people like you are willing to come on here. So yeah, keep up the good work. And that's it. I wish you all the best. And yeah, I'll link everything down in the description for people to check you out. Other than that, peace and love to you, and peace and love to the listener.
Thank
Goodbye,
you.
everybody.